Raising the Bets is brought to you by the Star Quest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give. You're listening to Raising the Bet, a family podcast of pirates and penguins. We're a Catholic couple raising 5 kids outside of Boston. Join us as we share the joys and challenges of marriage, homeschool, our adventures near and far, as we make sense of the world and experience the best parts of our culture. I'm Dom Bettinelli.
And I'm Melanie Bettinelli.
So I'm feeling a little up and a little down today as we record this. It's Sunday. The Patriots won today in Bristol fashion. I mean, they wallop the Dolphins. You don't really care about that.
No, I really don't.
I'm really excited.
I can pretend.
And you do very well at that. Not really. But so they won. So all of us, the rest of the family is very excited. The other 6 of us, we were all excited. And I got to try out my new touchdown cheer. Hercules, Hercules, Hercules. At first, the kids were annoyed.
I don't understand.
And then every time the Patriots would score a touchdown, they'd all look to me and like point, and I'd do it. It's from, I think it's Medea, I think is the movie, but which I've never seen. I only saw the clip, the trailer, and the clip, which I thought was hysterical when I saw it. So it's always stuck with me. Anyway,
is that like a movie about the Jason and the Argonauts, or is it? Like,
no, it's a movie about this. It's Tyler Perry's Medea. So it's a guy. I think Eddie Murphy did this before too. He'd made a movie where he was dressed up as an older black lady.
Uh-huh.
And so this guy is dressed up as an older black lady and sort of plays with the tropes and the cliches. And at one point she's like clapping for this fat kid who's in her family named Hercules or something. I don't know. I'm not sure what it is, but
just, the name's Medea, Hercules. It sounds like, we're chasing the golden fleece.
It could be. So that's why I'm
okay.
Up. And then I'm sad because I just found out that Rick Ocasek of the Cars, the band, the Cars, has died today. And that's sad because, I have an affinity for that music because A, I grew up with that music because I'm old enough. B, because it's a Boston-based band. And in fact, some of the band members, my understanding is, were from my hometown of Canton.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yeah. So, and the kids know the music because they know the song You Might Think from Cars, the movie Cars. So the cars were in Cars. Which, makes some sense. But
yeah.
So Rick Ocasek, so I was listening to some Cars, of the Cars, before, just to kind of, before the show, just kind of get in the mood. And Eddie Money died earlier this week, who was another musician from my childhood. My childhood is dying. But, I'm still, the music, I celebrate the music. I'm very happy and excited by the good things that are going on. It was a beautiful day today, too. So
it was a gorgeous day.
So what else have we been doing? Last week was the first meeting of the girls' scout troop, not Girl Scout troop.
Oh, it's so confusing.
This is the terminology is never going to get better.
No.
So as you may know, the Boy Scouts of America, couple years ago, made a decision to admit girls into scouting, which caused a huge controversy.
Very big controversy.
The way it works is at the Cub Scout level, so under the age of about 10, you can have separate packs, a girl pack and a boy pack, or you could have, they call them family packs, which I think is kind of a funny. So they come in a family pack.
It's a family pack.
There's 15 to feed your family. No, there's a family pack which have supposed to have girl dens and boy dens, unless you have a small pack like we do, where we on paper have girl dens and boy dens, but the girls and boys sit next to each other, and there's a male adult and a female adult leading things. So it works. So they're young enough; it's not a big deal. At the 11, at the what used to be Boy Scout level, they now call them BSA Scouts, and there are girl troops and boy troops, and so
no co-ed troops.
There are no co-ed troops, which is fine. And in fact, I'm. That works for me. If they had co-ed troops, I'd be, I don't know about that.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, oh, this is a terrible idea. We're diluting what the Boy Scouts is about, and and all this. With the separation, I get that. And what I realize is, with everything that's happened with the Girl Scouts of America, how political it's become, and how much about the cookie sales it's become, my girls, like our girls, would not be interested in that. Plus, they want to do all the outdoorsy, physical, cool stuff that the boys got to do that the Girl Scouts just don't do.
Right. From what I understand, some Girl Scout troops do more outdoorsy things, but it really depends on the troop. And we don't really have Girl Scout troops around here.
No, we do.
Anyway, do we?
There's one in town. There's one here in Holbrook.
Uh-huh.
But yeah, in fact, a couple of the girls who are in the new troop, the new with Bella and Sophie, were Girl Scouts, which I know the Girl Scouts aren't happy with. The official organization is not happy with that. But these girls were looking for, like, these are girls who would have been in BSA if they'd had the chance, and they jumped at it.
Right.
So now we're all in scouting. All
5 kids.
All 5 kids plus me, because I'm not only am I a den leader for the pack, I'm also treasurer for the troop. I don't know when I'm going to have the time to do that, but apparently I will. But
this is pretty much the only activity our kids are doing.
This is our extracurricular activity.
Yeah.
And which I'm very excited for. Now, we've had a little bit of people have suggested to us that what we should have been doing with them is they should have joined not BSA, but one of these alternative Catholic organizations. American Heritage Girls. I forget what the boy one was. Knights of St. George, I think it is.
Uh-huh.
But there aren't any around us.
And we do not have
we don't have the resources
to start a new thing.
Right.
That's just, there are people who are very good at that sort of thing. That is not in your wheelhouse or mine.
Right. In fact, even with this new troop that the girls belong to, I'm not organizing it. I'm not the scoutmaster. I'm not trying. You know what I mean? I'm helping out as much as I can, but I'm not that. That's not me. I don't do that. Plus, even then, like the BSA has been around for 100 years. There's a structure or an organization. There's history and institutional knowledge, and all the lessons learned are in the organization. These other ones they're new. They haven't learned the lessons. They haven't gone through the tough times yet. And there's just something about what BSA is ultimately about. I mean, it's still fundamentally a organization that promotes a civic religion, in the sense of they're not pushing a particular religion on you, but you have a duty to God, however your faith professes it. But you have to advance in scouting, have to talk about it, think about it, express that duty to God, and
anyway, it works for our family.
It works for us. So very excited. The girls are wicked excited. They look great in their uniforms.
They do. Very cute.
They're very cute in their uniforms. And like I said, they had their first meeting and it went well. There's 4 girls to start. There might be another one, a friend of ours, is going to
hopefully she'll
be there. Make a 5th one. It'll grow. They're founding members of this new troop. I think that's really awesome. So that's really good. And then Lucy, of course, is also, she's a new tiger cub. She is the cutest.
She is the cutest cub ever.
Cutest thing ever. In this uniform, which is giant. Like, we got the smallest uniform yet. It's still giant on her.
Yeah, I think I had to take the shorts in like 12 notches on
they're adjustable.
The adjustable elastics, and then they still have to be held up with a belt, and she can still like stick both of her arms all the way into the waistband.
Yes.
But they don't fall off, so that's the important thing, I guess.
Right. She is the weeest of wee Tiny Scouts. And so we had our first Cub Scout den meeting over last weekend, which went well. I've instituted I've been a den leader this is my 3rd year doing it, and only just discovered this idea of a den code of conduct, which, oh my Lord, how life would be different if I'd figured that out earlier. I've instituted a den code of conduct. The first violation of the code of conduct is a warning. The second is a timeout, and the third is your mom or dad take you home. And that's yeah. But there's a carrot to go with that stick, which is I give them 3 cub bucks at the beginning of every meeting, and every time they break a rule, I take one back. But at the end of the meeting, I add up the bucks that they have left. And when they reach a certain amount, which I'm going to try to time to be about every 2 or 3 months, they get a prize. They win something, a pizza party, ice cream, an outing like bowling or something. But they'll win something. And so the idea is to encourage them as a group. This is an individual. It's not an individual contest. It's a group thing where they will earn something through good behavior. It's my hope. It's my hope. So that was Scouts. And then we also had another new thing, because life isn't busy enough. A few weeks, maybe a month ago.
About a month ago.
Our pastor, Father Michael, on his way, back up to the sacristy at a mass one Sunday, stopped by our pew and asked if we'd consider, some of our kids becoming altar servers. So here's the thing: at our church, we go to the 8 a.m. mass on Sunday. It is not the mass I would have chosen to go to if I'd had a lot more choice. We actually spent a few years ago a lot of time trying to find a parish that had a mass between like 9 and 10:30 that was convenient for the family, because we thought that was the mass we could get to. And they had that. Well, I think the mass was at 9:30 at St. Edith's 9.
Yeah, we were going to the 9:30.
And so it was so we were going,
or maybe it was 9 a.m.
3 or 4 years. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I think it was 9. And then they had to rejigger the schedule because we're in a collaborative, and there's 2 other parishes that they have to align the schedule with, and so they moved it to 8 a.m. And there's an 8 a.m. and then there's an 11, I think it is.
And the 11 is just way
11 is too late
for us.
It's too late. It's just, it doesn't work. I mean, so it's been working for us at 8 a.m. We've been getting up, getting there. We get there even a little early, frankly.
Right. We are doing better at getting to mass early than when we went to the later mass.
Yeah, it's I don't know what it is.
Well, we're not eating breakfast. Like the kids aren't eating breakfast before, because it's so early that we just like sort of...
You got to get up and go.
Put them in clothes, get them in the car, and then leave. And without futzing around with food and drinks and stuff.
And there isn't enough time to say, I've got time, which was the problem before. For me.
I wasn't going to say it, but yeah, for you.
For me, there was a problem where there was enough time for me to say, I got time. And then I'd look at the clock and go, I don't got time.
Yeah.
It was 9:30, because I remember I would look and it would be like 9:15. I'd be like, oh my gosh, I got to get in the shower.
Yeah. Oh, yes.
And I'd be running.
The last second shower.
All right. So at this early mass, you can imagine there are not a lot of kids. In fact,
there's not a lot of people.
There's not a lot of people at that mass in general. That I imagine that everyone who used to go to that 9, most of them are going to the 10:30 now. So there's not a lot of people. There's not a lot of kids. I mean, we kind of really stand out at this parish in more ways than one. It's an urban, inner city parish, beautiful church. We've talked about it before. Large Haitian community, large Cape Verdean community, and we kind of, stand out, I guess. In more ways, like I said, in more ways than one, but especially because we have 5 kids who are well behaved, right?
Mostly, yeah.
Yeah, they behave pretty well at mass these days.
Yeah, because they're all over the age of reason.
And so I think Father saw them and said, "Look, they have trouble getting service for this mass because these kids don't normally go to this mass, and many times they have to have like adults, sacristans or Eucharistic extraordinary ministers of the Eucharist, use the right term, to helping out as serving." So we said, okay. So Bella volunteered and Benedict volunteered. Sophia didn't, although I think she would do really well.
She's nervous.
She does not like standing in front of people.
And new things are kind of scary.
Right. The hope is that once Isabella and Ben are doing it for a while, she kind of warms up to the idea.
And maybe Anthony too.
Yeah. We didn't really ask Anthony. He's on the lower end of, I think, ready for it, but he might be. It would be nice to have 4 of them, and so that if any one or 2 of them, they could switch out. They don't have to do it every week. That would be the nice.
I mean, yeah. If it were like just left up to us, I probably would never have said, "Hey, let's volunteer to be altar servers." But our pastor asked. And so it was time to, step up and say, this is
right.
We've been asked to do a job. We need to do the job.
I was an altar boy, and I think it's good. for them to do
Yep.
it. So we had our first training. We had on Wednesday. I went, and Ben wasn't feeling well, so I took Bella, and I have to say, Father. So Father's from Nigeria, and he has a real holy heart. He's really, and I can tell his priorities are in order. He talks about reverence and about the liturgy should be beautiful and should be treated with reverence, and you should do things beautifully for God and do things the right way because it's the right, I mean, it was I could really tell that. And he's really gentle with the training because we went Wednesday, and then on Thursday Ben was feeling better, and we had our second training, and he's say, well, for one thing, I gotta say, our kids have to get over the tentativeness. It's like, ring the bells, clinkle clinkle clinkle. No, ring the bell, clinkle clinkle. Like 3 times, Isabella. Just give it a sharp twist. Just make a noise. Make that noise. And but they'll get it. But he said, we're not going to force you to go before you're ready to do this. We're not going to force you to serve at a mass before you feel comfortable. This is entirely up to you. We'll do as many trainings as you want. The first few times you do it, you'll this lady, this really lovely woman who at our parish, who's a Eucharistic minister, she's Bernadette. She's going to help with the kids during the mass. There, when the first few times they serve, making sure they know what to do and that they're doing it right. So I really feel good about it, and I think it'll be good for them and for us and for the parish. I think so. I'm looking forward to that. So those are the couple. I mean, they're really two of the big events of the week.
Yeah, I have to say, I again, Ben was sick all week, and so I still feel like I'm kind of in that weird sick kid limbo.
Right.
When one kid is off, I don't know. It feels like everything is off for me.
I think it's. I mean, so it's the asthma stuff, but I think like you said, I think it's tied to something seasonal. I think it's tied to an allergy or something.
Yeah. Oh gosh, the poor kid. He's just been miserable.
Some days he's really good, and some days he's just suffering. Like today he was good, and then after dinner it was like, oh, my stomach hurts, and I don't feel good. I'm tired, and I want to collapse. And you could tell he was deflating.
Yeah. I mean, he said to me, he's like, I made it to mass, and I think I was doing really good to make it to mass this morning. And I said, yeah, you know. He was very distressed not to get to mass last week.
Yeah.
And he always is when he can't go.
He loves to go to mass. He loves to be there. So.
And if you told me that when he was 2, I would not have believed you, because he spent all of mass hiding under the pew.
Yeah, he would lay on the kneeler or go under the pew. He just was those days of standing out in the back with a baby or a toddler, listening to the mass as best I can.
Yeah, it's a different stage of life that we're in now, for sure.
It is a very different stage of life. You don't imagine that you'll ever get there, but you eventually do. So our big thing that's coming up, I'm sure we'll talk about next week. In fact, maybe we'll have a special guest on our next podcast. That is, your mom is coming to visit tomorrow.
Yay!
Grandma's coming.
I still am having a hard time wrapping my head around the fact that it's actually tomorrow. I mean, like, it's sort of, I haven't really caught up with like this coming week's schedule, and so I'm still kind of thinking of like, yeah, she's coming sometime, right? In the future.
Yep, tomorrow. It's been a while since your mom's been here, right? I mean, it's been over a year.
Over a year. She was here last summer, I think.
Yes, she tries to come in the summer, I think, to get away from the Texas heat.
It's much cooler here than it is in Texas.
Harder in Texas.
Yeah. But last fall we saw them in Kentucky.
That's right.
And so now it's been about a year since we saw my mom.
Mm-hmm. Although I get to see your mom and talk to her every couple of weeks, because if you're an SQPN listener, Star Quest listener, if you listen to Secrets of Technology, Pat is one of the panelists on Secrets of Tech with me every couple of weeks, and she's also on Let's Talk if you ever listen to that. So that's my mother-in-law. So it's a lot of fun when she comes because she's a super geek like me, and the kids love to have grandma here.
Yeah, it'll be fun. We're planning some we're planning some fun outings with grandma and
Yep, we mentioned the couple that we'd like to do is like apple picking and doing the second half of the Freedom Trail that we've been meaning to do.
we'll see if she's up for that.
Yeah, yeah. And then the weather's supposed to be really awesome, so I'm looking forward to that. It's that crisp fall in New England, 70 something degrees, dry. It'll be nice. What else was there? There was so your mom's coming. I think that's most of what's what we're kind of anticipating.
Yeah, I'm trying to get back onto like sort of a schedule. Yeah.
Yeah. It's tough getting, we never really stop homeschooling, but it just feels like everyone else is starting up fresh for fall. And if you feel that urge to start up fresh with school for fall, and you're like, yeah, we're trying. We'll get there.
I need to write up some checklists and stuff.
Right. So that's what we've been doing. Let's talk about what we've been eating. We've at first like by Friday or so, I'm like, we're not gonna have anything to talk about in interesting food that we're eating. And then Friday, you made cod chowder, which was really good.
Yeah, I've just in the past year started to try my hand at fish chowders, clam chowder, cod chowder, and my favorite, clam and cod chowder.
Yes, this one was just cod though.
Yeah, I didn't have any clams, but I had some cod in the freezer, which I've started to try to keep some in the freezer so I can make chowder as a quick dinner.
So I've got that salt pork in the fridge. I wish I'd told you and had you use it. Because I've been getting it. I've been meaning to make baked beans.
Yeah, I was in the quick chowder mode though. So
bacon instead.
I didn't even actually use bacon. I just used some of the saved bacon fat from the fridge. I just skipped over because I was like, it was late. Everybody had to go to Cub Scouts.
Right.
And so I was just like trying to get food.
And it came together pretty quick, I have to say. So a couple of the tips that things we do with it. So whenever we make lobster, which this is sort of a New England thing, I know. Whenever we make lobster,
whenever we have
lobster, make sure to save all of the extras for the chowder. No, so we always have lobster on Christmas Eve, so there's always some of that. But we had some lobster a few weeks ago because in the summer it's cheap here. We save the water that we steam them in. We boil them, half boil, half steam them in, and parboil.
It sounds kind of gross, but.
Oh no!
Just the lobster water.
It's lobster water. Well, I mean, when you cook chicken, that's how you make stock. You make chicken stock. You put bones in the water, and it gets the flavor of the chicken.
Yeah.
So this
basic idea.
Yes, and it's so flavorful. So we save that in the freezer. So you get like at least a quart of that in the freezer.
Yeah,
right?
I used a quart of the lobster stock, and then I also used a quart of my homemade chicken stock.
Right.
So. Which just adds like richness and more protein and goodness.
Yep.
Because I also use vegetables in that too. Then I used the frozen cod. I just defrosted a bunch of pieces of that, and a whole bunch of potatoes. I used a mix of russet potatoes and the golden potatoes.
Yukon Gold.
Yukon Golds. Yes.
Yeah.
So what I do is I actually sort of parboil the potatoes in the microwave just to kind of speed up the process while my celery and onion were sautéing in the pan. And then I sort of saute the celery and onion in the bacon fat and some olive oil. I would use butter, except Lucy can't do dairy, so butter is kind of out, unfortunately. Right. I add it at the end after I've taken out her portion.
Right. We at some point we generally take the pre-dairy part, we take some aside, and we finish off the stuff for everyone else with the dairy that we need to add.
Right, because cod chowder, it needs.
Otherwise, it's just fish stew, fish soup.
It needs dairy. Although Lucy's a good sport, and she will eat her portion with no milk in it, and she thinks it's perfectly good. So I guess it's not bad. Just would feel wrong. Chowder. Yeah. So then, just cook the potatoes, dump them in with 2 stalks on top of your sautéed vegetables. Let that cook until the potatoes are nice and soft and crumbling and falling apart. I usually season it with some bay leaves, some thyme, a dash of Worcestershire sauce, and some Old Bay seasoning.
Yep. And then at the end, plenty of black pepper.
Yeah. I think I skipped the black pepper. Honestly.
I mean, I put it on mine.
Well, yeah.
Portion. Yeah.
And then I don't add the fish until like
the fish cooks really quick.
It cooks fast, and you don't want to overcook it. So I add that like right at the end, and then like cook the fish for maybe 5 minutes or so, and
then you add the dairy.
Then I add the dairy. Except first, actually, I added some potato starch.
This is the key. This was the trick. Most of us like thick chowder, like and a lot of restaurants where you get thick chowder, it's thickened with flour, like a flour paste or a roux.
But we can't do that because, again, Lucy is allergic to wheat.
I mean, we could do it
at the end. But then you're not really cooking it, and it's not.
Yeah, well, it would take a lot longer to make sure you cook the flour, right? But you use potato starch because, of course, there's already potatoes.
There's already potatoes in it, so you're not changing the flavor profile really. And honestly, you just you ladle up some of the broth into a bowl. You add a bunch of potato starch. I think maybe like a quarter cup, half a cup.
For a 6-quart of chowder, right? Is that a 6-quart?
Oh, no, that's like at least 8 quarts.
That's an 8-quart.
Yeah.
Dutch oven. That's right.
So you mix in the potato starch, and honestly, it looks like mashed potatoes.
Right.
Like it's very, very thick mashed potatoes texture. And then you scrape it into the pot and stir it in, and it's really, really thick. And then I used half and half. You can use milk.
Mm-hmm.
You can use heavy cream and some butter.
But the potato starch was the brilliant addition because it's not flour. It's I mean, of course it's a carb. It's potato, but it looks like thin mashed potato when you mix in it. But it really thickens it up, and then it adds a really good that potatoey flavor that you expect.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then we made some croutons. We had like some a couple days old bread.
Some like really nice French bread and some Italian like sesame bread.
Yeah, scala bread.
So I just heated up some butter and mixed it with some olive oil and tossed the bread in it with a little bit of garlic and onion powder and some thyme. Yeah, thyme. Yeah. And then toasted it in the oven for about 5 minutes. Those were really good croutons.
Yes, those were good. I mean, we have oyster crackers, but those croutons were better.
Much better.
And then, so I had some today for lunch.
So did I.
And it was chowder gets better. A couple days in the fridge or a day in the fridge, and that's true. It was so good. All right, so that's the chowder. Then on Saturday I had a meeting to go to, so I couldn't go to the farmers market. But you went. And you saw Jerry. We love Jerry.
Oh, our Asian pear guy. The kids all call him Asian pear guy.
Let's be clear. We're not making a comment on his race. Jerry grows Asian pears.
Yeah.
The varieties of pears that are Asian pears.
So Asian pears, if you're not familiar with them, they're round like apples. So they look like sort of greenish speckled apples or yellowish, or sometimes some of them are kind of
they're not
golden brown, but they're not pear shaped. But of course, then when you slice them open, the texture is
very much
like a pear. But they're a little bit crisper.
They're crisper
than other varieties of pears. So they're sort of like halfway between a pear and an apple.
And many of them are sweeter than regular Bosc pears, like you have at the store.
Yeah, they're very. Well, he carries a bunch of different varieties, and some of them are sweeter, some of them are tartar, some of them are crunchier, and some of them are softer.
And he and his wife are the nicest people, and he's always like, here, he sees us, and he's like, gets out a pear and starts slicing it up so that all the kids can have some. And I think he appreciates the fact that all of us love his pears.
And then he's always very sweet. He usually gives us a couple of like small little.
He gives us extras. He doesn't charge us for them.
Like the kind of they're almost like too small to sell. Like they're just little teeny tiny ones, or they're slightly damaged. So he's just like, oh, here, have a couple to try on me.
Yeah, this is what I love about the farmers market is that it's that personal touch that you get to know someone. It's the and this,
every year we look forward to Jerry being there.
Yeah, Asian pears are only around a certain part of the season, part of the year, and
he always gives us little growing updates. Like he said, it was a very wet spring, so there aren't as many pears this year, and it's kind of nice. Like we get to know the farmers, and he was talking about the deer who were eating his pears, even though he has an electric fence. They were still somehow getting in and threatening the pears. It's kind of fun. Like they were on the trees on Friday, and he picked them and then brought them to the market on Saturday morning.
This is the best time of year for the New England farmers market. This is like if you live in California, like on the Central Coast or Central Valley, whatever. Like you get a bounty of food year round. Like you get like 4 growing seasons or something. But in New England, like September, it's not summer really. It's September when everything good is coming in. This is harvest time. We got the eggplants, we got the zucchinis, we tomatoes got the pumpkins, the tomatoes still coming in. You got all
onions
the vegetables,
and potatoes and peppers and
everything. You got apples galore
and peaches, fresh peaches. Oh, the peaches were amazing.
So that's awesome. We had some of those today. The Asian pears. One thing that we haven't been doing is I noticed is like over the summer I was grilling like four nights a week. Like, I was grilling a lot. We were doing a lot of grilling. But Labor Day hit, and suddenly, I grilled once this week. I grilled some Italian sausages this week.
I mean, I think that's partly just, I sort of ran out of momentum for, like, do we want to have pork chops again?
Although we did make a steak on Saturday night.
I bought some steaks on Saturday.
I did grill those, yeah.
On the way home from the market, I stopped at Whole Foods and picked up some fresh mozzarella and some steaks and some other yummy treats.
Because you ate stuffed shells for dinner tonight. Oh my, those are my favorites. This is Dom Bettinelli of the StarQuest Production Network, and we need your help. Over the past year, we've grown by leaps and bounds. Some of our podcasts, like Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World, are among the most popular shows we've ever produced, but that success is in danger. Creating a dozen shows has caused our expenses to rise, and right now, we aren't making ends meet. We must reach the financial break-even point if we're going to continue. If our reserves are depleted, we'll have to cut back many of our shows. We might have to shut down entirely. That's why it's crucial we hear from you right now. Please go to sqpn.com/give and click the Become a Patron button to make your monthly pledge. If you're already a supporter, please consider increasing your pledge. The need is urgent, so please go to sqpn.com/give. That's sqpn.com/give. All right, let's get to the star of the show. We cannot get through the what we're eating without talking about this big project you had today. And we need to find out success. So the preliminary is your parents have in their yard in Texas fig trees.
One fig tree.
A fig tree.
Yes.
Which is apparently a bountiful fig tree.
The funny thing is that it died back a few years ago, maybe 10 years ago. And like we thought that the fig tree, we thought it was going to be a goner. I mean, when I was a kid, you'd get maybe a couple dozen figs off of it in a year. Mostly the birds and squirrels would get it. And my dad had all of these schemes to try to keep the birds out, like a big net over the tree. And the birds would always somehow get under the net and then get trapped inside the net. And then just like the squirrels
gorge themselves
chew through the net. But my dad has this new thing that he I don't know where he read about it, probably on the internet.
Well, first your dad retired.
Well, yeah, so he's there all day.
So he had plenty of time
to putter around.
And he's a farm boy from Illinois.
It's funny because like I would never, the entire time I was growing up, have pictured my dad as the old retired guy messing around in the garden. Like we bought the house from the old retired guy who used to mess around in the garden, and my dad kind of gently mocked him. I mean, not cruelly, but just like, haha, old retired fart messing around in the garden. And the next door neighbor, when we moved in, was an old retired guy who spent all of his time in the garden. And that just did not seem to be my dad's thing. And
until he became that old retired guy messing around the garden.
So every time I talk to him, he's like telling me about the new plants that he's put in and this and that and the other. But with the fig tree, he realized that you could take those big plastic clamshells that you get like this pre-made salad or the strawberries or the blueberries or whatever in at the market. And you could just like
Put them around.
snap them around the end of the tree where the figs were growing. And then the birds and the squirrels can't get into them, but light can get in and air can get in. And so the figs grow.
In fact, in that Texas heat, it probably provides a more humid, warm environment.
Anyway, the harvest from his fig trees has definitely improved in the last few years. And
so last October, he and your sister came to visit.
Yep.
And he brought with him, like, how big was that container?
I think I measured it today. It was 2 3/4 pounds
of frozen
pureed figs.
Was it pureed?
It was pureed.
Turned out okay.
Yeah, but I didn't know actually what was in the thing until I defrosted it.
And so, as you might guess, it's been in our freezer for a year.
Yeah,
because you didn't know what to do with it.
I kept meaning to look up recipes and I kept forgetting about it, and it was buried in the bottom of the freezer, and I just unburied it when I was doing a major freezer clean out, and I thought, okay, I'm going to do something with these figs. I'm going to find a recipe.
But you had a problem with finding a recipe, right?
I don't really like fig Newtons. I've tried and I've tried and I've tried, and my dad makes homemade fig Newtons and he really loves them. But I like the fig filling, but I really don't love that crumbly, dry shortbready sort of pastry. I've tried and I've tried and I don't.
But the big problem is finding recipes that start with frozen pureed figs or frozen figs.
Like a lot of the recipes start with fresh figs.
Right.
And so that was obviously not going to work.
And there's a big difference. Like once a fruit has been frozen and defrosted, it is going to be mush, whether it's been pureed or not. It's going to be soft and mushy because the ice crystals break down the cell walls.
Right.
And
so clearly these like really pretty fig tarts weren't going to cut it. And we couldn't do like stuffed figs or any of these other things that I had my eyes on. But I got this idea of like figs and honey and goat cheese in a tart. So I decided to reduce the figs. I boiled them down to make basically a sort of fig jam out of them. I added some orange zest and orange juice from
fresh squeezed orange.
Some little clementines that were starting to go bad and that nobody wanted to eat. And a little bit of amaretto and some honey and some sugar. And I boiled it for several hours, and I reduced it to maybe a third of what had been there before.
So highly concentrated
figgy goodness. And then I wanted goat cheese. So I bought a log of goat cheese on Saturday, and I found a recipe that mixed the goat cheese with honey, and I decided to add some lemon zest into that too. A little sweetness and citrus. I used a pre-made pie crust because I'm really not a pastry person. It could be better, but it could be worse. So I rolled out the pre-made pie crust onto a round cookie sheet, and then I spread my goat cheese mixture, and then I spread my fig mixture, and then I put on top some apples that I'd sliced up and tossed with some sugar and more lemon zest. And I made just like the pretty like galette, and then folded up the pastry around the edge and brushed it with milk and put some of that sugar. Turbinado sugar. Thank you. And then for Lucy, because she couldn't eat this obviously with the
pie crust
and the goat cheese, I made her a little tartlet, and I took some of her cookies.
Her wheat-free, gluten-free, corn-free.
They're allergy-friendly cookies.
Cinnamon cookies that she hadn't been eating.
These cookies have been sitting on the shelf for at least a year. So they're stale, and they're she doesn't like them very much. So I pounded those into crumbs and sprinkled them on the bottom of a little mini tart pan. And then I put some of the apple slices and some pears, some of the Asian pears that were left over, and then spread the fig jam on top of that and baked it. So,
and
all of this took way longer than I anticipated, and so it didn't come out of the oven until the kids were brushing their teeth, getting ready for bed.
Right.
And it was way too hot to eat, so they're going to have to wait to try it.
But you
tomorrow
tried it.
I tried it. It was really good.
Well, congratulations! I'm proud of you that you this worked out.
I have ideas for like how to tweak the recipe, and I have a whole bunch of the figs jam stuff left
Mm-hmm.
because this only used like maybe a third of a cup or half a cup or something less.
Yeah.
So there's a whole bunch left. I'm excited.
Awesome. So so that's what we've been eating, and we'll put what we can for recipes on the website. I'm not sure there's actually a recipe for this yet.
There is definitely not one unless I write it up because
You'll
nobody has done this.
Yeah, you'll
that
have
I can find.
to figure it out from what she's saying. Someday there may be a recipe that we can post a link to online.
Maybe I'll try to write one up.
Yeah, we get it on your blog. Her blog is thewinedarksea.com. There'll be a link. You can find a link to that from our show notes on our web on sqpn.com. So let's talk about what we're reading. But first, I want to talk about what the kids are reading. Because frankly, I haven't watched anything really new this week. I'm continuing to watch shows in anticipation of the new seasons, TV season starting in a few weeks. There isn't really anything new I've been watching, but and I'm still reading the Brandon Sanderson book that I started several weeks ago. But the kids are reading something new, and let me introduce it. So the kids have read Lord of the Rings, and they've read Diane Duane's Young Wizard series. We've talked about that, and the Mysterious Benedict Society. Conspicuous by its absence has been Harry Potter. Now, I obviously have nothing against Harry Potter. The SQPN library contains The Secrets of Harry Potter, which is one of our most successful shows we've ever done. And there's plenty to like about it. I'm not a huge fan of it, not for religious reasons, like some of the silliness. Aspects of Rowling's writing style kind of bug me, like the way she writes some of the stuff, some of the inconsistencies
And likewise, I read the books probably. I read the first three a few years after they came out.
Yeah,
and I liked them. They were okay. They weren't my favorite fantasy works, but
I mean, I like the movies. I like the books. They were fine. But I was not crazy for them like some people are crazy for Harry Potter books. I mean, that's fair to say.
Yeah.
So we were not in a rush to, we've got them on the shelf here, but we weren't in a rush to like get our kids to read them.
Also, they get kind of dark, and
right
until like the last year or so, Isabella's really not had any taste for things that got.
Even now, she's dark. A little. Just before she went to bed, she said to me, "I'm going to read something else tonight."
Yeah. So she's
a little dark.
She's kind of sensitive as a reader.
Yeah.
And therefore there really didn't seem to be any rush to. It's not my favorite series, and
again, just because we say it's not our favorite doesn't mean we dislike it. I mean, I feel like nowadays when you say, "Oh, I don't love this thing that you love," people take it personally, but it's not meant as a judgment on you for loving it. I mean, that's fine. I know I have plenty of people that I love and respect and who love it, and that's fine. I mean, it's okay to like different things, and I like it too. I just don't love it as much as you do, maybe. But
I fangirl over a lot of different things. And Harry Potter's just. I think maybe I'm too old to have fangirled over Harry Potter as much as some of my friends, because
it's like you and me in Star Wars. I love Star Wars.
I like Star Wars.
You like Star Wars. But you don't love it.
No,
that's
not
the way me and that I and the rest of the kids.
Yeah, it's
Dr. Freud. Let me help you up. I said I and the rest of the kids.
Well, yeah. When it comes to Star Wars,
I'm like one of the kids.
Yeah.
All right. So that said, Tuesday night was the scout meeting with the girls, and they were doing a get to know you sort of thing. And one of the girls said, they're talking about things that they love, and one of the girls said, "Oh, I love Harry Potter." And they look at both Bella and Sophie, and they're like, "Who?"
They've heard of Harry Potter.
We've never read that. And the other girls were like, and one or two of the adults were like, "Really?" And like, "Oh yeah, we love to read, but we just haven't read that." So that kind of left me thinking, even I think Harry Potter is one of those things where even just for cultural literacy, for social reasons, it's something that you should know at their age, like from their age group, for their generation.
Right, like if you want to connect with other kids, then who've read who read, it's kind of one of those things like, yeah, knowing about it, having read it, will give them something else to talk to with other kids their age.
It's a cultural literacy thing. So we talked about it. Melanie and I talked about it, and we said, okay, we're going to introduce the books. And who did we give did we not give the first book to Bella?
You were doing that.
I forget who. No, Bella was finishing a book, so she wasn't ready. But Sophie's like, okay, so she took the first book. Within 12 hours, she'd finished that and started the second book. But it's been like since Thursday, right? Thursday, Saturday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
I thought it was Tuesday.
No, Tuesday was the meeting, so I don't think we gave it to her on Wednesday. I think it was Thursday. I gave it to her, and in 4 days, Sophie has read 5 of them.
No, 4. She just finished number 4.
I thought she just finished number 5.
No, she was starting number 5.
Okay,
next.
So and then Bella starts up right behind her. As soon as Sophie was done with the first one, Bella started it. And so she keeps she's a little bit faster reader than Sophie, even though Sophie has been absorbed in these books every free moment. Every time you look at her, she's got one of the books in her hand.
This has been another reason why our homeschooling week has been, at least the last couple of days of it,
well, they get up in the morning. She gets up again, sometimes before I do. She's in the living room, sitting in the chair, reading the book. She goes into the dining room and gets her breakfast and is reading the book. And then Bella's reading the book. And then Anthony picks up the book and he's reading the book.
As soon as Bella and Sophie had finished with volume 1, Anthony was like,
well, it was like this with the Young Wizards. Bella, Sophie, Anthony all reading these books together, and then talking about it and discussing it and very excited about it. And so they're I mean, I think they will be done. Well, maybe not, because the 6th and 7th books are really big, but it's conceivable Sophie could be done with the series by the next Scout meeting. Within 1 week, she'll be able to come back and go, oh yeah, Harry Potter, that was pretty good.
or at least by the end of next week.
Yes, it's astonishing how quickly they've run through these. So Bella and Sophie and Anthony. Unfortunately, Ben is feeling a little left out.
And he has been feeling left out. He wasn't able to join in with the Young Wizards or the Mysterious Benedict Society series, and generally the big series that we've read before that have all been ones I've read to the kids or ones we've listened to the audiobooks. And so it's been sort of a family culture thing. And he's just not a very strong reader yet.
He's getting there, but he's struggling with there may be some learning, some physiological issues related to that. But so he's getting there. He's made huge progress, but he's not the easy reader like the other 3 are. They just are voracious. They'll run through a book. So you had the great idea today of getting the Audible books, the audiobook versions of these for Ben.
Right. I don't know. It was just just brainstorm out of the blue. Why shouldn't he listen to them as audiobooks? We listen to lots of other things as audiobooks, and then he could join in.
Because he has been very clearly hinting that how much he's feeling left out of everything. He's like, well, I guess I'm going to go. Lucy and I will be playing together.
Oh, it's been kind of sad. I mean, he's been sick all week. So he's already feeling down in the dumps.
Yep.
He's on prednisone and just miserable. And he's like, yeah, well, they're all reading books. I guess I'll just play with Lucy. We're the only ones who aren't.
Right. Because the others are all they're not interested in playing. They're all huddled somewhere in a book. So, but if we when we mentioned the idea of the audiobooks to him, he got very excited. He thought that was a great idea. So what we're going to do is Grandma, being the tech nerd she is, has a spare old iPhone somewhere that she's not using, apparently. You talk to her.
I texted with her.
Okay. So that she will bring with her. So we won't set it up on service. It'll just be we'll put the Audible app on it, and we'll purchase and download, or we'll figure something out. Maybe we'll get it through the library into library loan or something. We'll figure it out. But we'll get the audiobook versions on that, and he'll have this able to listen to it, so that he can participate. He can be part of the discussion of it.
I think it's interesting. I was curious as to like what would he choose to be the first audiobooks to dive into, and he said he wanted to do Diane Duane's Young Wizards. That was his first choice.
Well, he's probably been wanting to for a while.
Yeah. I mean, he has. He's vocalized several times, which is, again, why I feel like I've been...
Frankly, I've wanted to read them for a while, listening to you guys discuss them, because they sound fascinating.
Right, and I don't know why it didn't occur to me sooner.
They sound like a cross between Harry Potter...
Not Harry Potter.
Dr. Freud, let me help you up. Harry Potter and Ready Player One. With the pop culture references?
I guess.
That's how it's kind of come across. Like this, because like the characters in it make reference to things like Star Wars and other.
Oh
stuff.
yeah. There's a character who's a pretty big Star Wars fan,
and yet they're wizards.
Yeah.
Harry Potter sort of avoids. It's set in our present day, and it's set in our world, but it avoids the pop culture of our world. I've noticed.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of dismissed as being Muggle culture, and there's like Mr. Weasley's kind of interested in Muggle culture,
right.
But Harry himself doesn't seem all that interested in Muggle culture.
Right. It's yeah. I mean, that's one of the odd things about Harry Potter is how separate they are, how separate that world is. It's in our world, but it's not in our world, and so it's very interesting. But nevertheless, it's the Young Wizard series, which is much older. Diane Duane started writing these back in the 80s. It concerns young people who who enter into a world, they discover a wizarding world around us. I mean, it kind of sounds like Rowling might have been inspired by Diane Duane a little bit.
Right. Although, yeah, I mean, Diane Duane's world, there are wizards. They live in the world, but they're not really separated from it. I mean, the mentors, Kit and Nita just go to regular old public school, and their mentors have regular day jobs. One of them's a writer, and the all of the wizards have like regular lives, families, jobs, friends. They do normal, everyday, earthly things, except when it turns out that they actually have contact with wizards on other worlds, and then you start to get sort of an entire science fiction universe of aliens and species and space travel.
Right.
But yeah, it's much more grounded in our world and less sort of secret hidden world. It's more like interpenetration.
Yeah. So it's interesting. He's going to want to listen to that first, which is awesome. I'm glad that he's got a very clear idea of what he wants to listen to there. Now, speaking of reading, you've been reading this book.
Oh, yes.
That you've been telling me about.
Oh, yeah. I don't even remember who suggested it online. Several people were talking about it. It's called Proust and the Squid, which is a really great title. The subtitle is The Story and Science of the Reading Brain. So it's a book about reading.
The science, physiology of reading, the science of reading. But
also sort of the cultural history of reading.
Okay.
Like, how did reading develop over time? What are the different systems of reading and writing? So it's by a woman named Marianne Wolfe, who is actually right here in Massachusetts. She's a researcher at Tufts University.
Oh.
And she runs a center which studies reading development and also tutors local kids and helps them to read. So the kids are sort of both helped by the program, but also sort of the test subjects by which they test out their theories about reading. And it's a fascinating book because she really digs into the neuroscience of reading, but also talks about the history. When we talk about this, she talks about the Sumerians and the Egyptians and Linear B and Chinese writing and Japanese, and how the neuro physiology differs between the way a Chinese reader's brain functions and an English reader's brain functions. And she talks about the difference between like a phonetic alphabet and a system of ideograms or logograms.
Right.
And it's just fascinating, but also it's very literary. She obviously is somebody who reads and enjoys literature. So, of course, we talk about Proust, who's one of the great writers who's written about the experience of reading. And she brings in all sorts of other literary, everything from talking about Frog and Toad and Dick and Jane to Huck Finn. And it's very literary, very, which, hits my...
So it's both, it's like art and science. It's liberal arts and, the hard sciences.
Right. And it's very practical too. I mean, the last section of the book actually talks about reading disabilities and dyslexia. I'm really looking forward to getting to that. I'm about halfway through the book now. And so we sort of talked about like the development of written language as opposed to oral language. She has a great section about Socrates and his distrust of written language. Socrates was worried that writing things down and becoming dependent on writing as opposed to memory of the oral culture would change the way people thought and make people not as good thinkers. And she, Marianne Wolf, actually sort of looks at the development of our own culture as we're on the brink of a shift that may be as significant on the neurological level as the shift from an oral culture to a reading culture, because we are moving into being a digital culture. And she's really curious about what is that doing to our brains, and even more so our kids' brains, as they move into a digital world where more and more information is not written, or even if it were reading, we're reading in a very different way than we do when we read books or...
TLDR. Too long didn't read.
Right. So it's kind of fascinating because it's also sort of speculative about neurological changes in the future, and sort of cautious, but not like, she's not all throwing up red flags and saying, danger, danger, we shouldn't go there. We should put away all the computers and get rid of all tech. It's more, sort of a cautious, we should be careful.
Yeah. We're always changing as a people, both as society, but also as a species. We're constantly changing, and it's inevitable that we will change and things will adapt. One of the interesting parts for me was when you talked about the science behind learning to read, that, some of those aspects of, how we learn to read and, in kids, and why some kids have more trouble than others. Some of that was really interesting too.
Right. It's really fascinating. I mean, just talking about what parts of the brain do what in reading. Like, there's a section where she breaks it down and like step by step by step by step, what part of the brain is being activated by every single step, from the sort of decision of I'm going to read this, shifting your attention to the written page, looking at the words, every little bit. But she also talks about, I just lost my train of thought. Learning to read. So she talks about how, like, we are hardwired for vision and for audio. Like, you don't have to teach a child to see or to hear those, or to use language, really. Language, like, sort of, if kids are around people speaking, they will learn language. They will learn how to speak.
Right.
If you speak to them, they'll eventually start speaking back to you. That's just part of how our brain works. But reading is different because there is no... Our brains don't naturally have a reading system. What they do is they cobble together bits and pieces of the visual system, the audio system, the memory system, all of these different processes, so that reading is something that every child has to sort of go through the entire process that the human race had to go through as we developed written language in order to learn how to decode written language. It's really fascinating.
It's amazing. Interesting. So you haven't finished the book yet, right?
Halfway through.
Halfway through.
Probably finish it this week.
Okay. I'm interested to hear your thoughts when you're done with it too. So we'll come back and talk about that a little bit. Cool. So that's our reading and watching segment. We do have some feedback. I want to wrap things up here, but some feedback that we got from a listener, Lee Harshbarger, sent us an email and said, "I tried your cold oil fries recipe. It was awesome. We'll definitely be doing this more often and trying others. Alas, so little time, so many recipes." I agree, Lee.
Totally.
You should see my recipe app. I use a Paprika Recipe Manager. I have like 1,000 recipes, and I even have a special section called "To Try," which is like 50. So it's like, yes, I agree. And part of the problem is convincing Melanie that we should try these because she's concerned that the kids won't like it, and I see the point.
And also concerned about like time management.
Yes. So continuing Lee's email. Really like this podcast. Started listening to Jimmy Akin's Mysterious World after hearing about it on Catholic Answers, and have explored SQPN podcast since. I like what you do very much. Ironically, one of the last shows I thought I would like was Raising the Bets. I don't take that personally.
No.
It's fine.
Honestly, I'm not sure that it was the kind of show that I would listen to, weirdly enough.
Yeah. Well, then he says, however, it's become one of my favorites. Crazy how it works when you try to have an open mind. It's crazy. If you have an open mind, anything will pop in there. Well, long story short, love what you're doing. I've become a patron. Thank you, Lee. Thank you so much. Would you let us know how it's going? We have our summer giving campaign that we're doing that's kind of coming to a close soon, and how close you are to making or losing it. I'd really hate to lose such a great resource. Thank you so much. Well, thank you, Lee. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you
for your support. So we have some more information that'll be coming out soon that'll go out in all the feeds and a new message. And what Lee is referring to is we need to break even financially with the network. We're not currently meeting our expenses, and our resources are running out, and we're going to need to close that gap. If we don't, we'll have to take some serious looks at our different shows and the things we can offer, and we'll have to maybe stop doing some of them or even shut down altogether, which I would be devastating to all of us. But we can't do this unless we're paying the bills. So
food is good. We like to eat.
Well, yeah, I mean, paying the bills literally for us. This is my job. I do this for a living. So there's that. And if I can't make a salary that supports my family, I'm gonna have to go do something else that has a salary with it. And if I'm not doing this, there's no one doing the things that, we just won't get done. And so we would have to shut the network down. So I don't want to do that. And so to answer the question partially is we're closing the gap. We've had many great new patrons coming into sqpn.com/give, becoming patrons, providing their support. It's been great. We still have a ways to go before we've closed the gap, and we're sort of in the
home free,
in the black, right?
Yeah.
In accounting, red is bad, black is good.
Right.
Okay. So we have we're still in the red. We still have ways to get to the black. If you enjoy this podcast or any of our podcasts or all of our podcasts, please go to sqpn.com/give, and we would appreciate your support so that we could keep doing this, because we're having a lot of fun. So look for those messages. They'll be coming out soon, so I don't want to spend too much time now on it. And we're just about out of time anyway. I like to try to keep this about an hour. I don't want to take up too much of your time. So that's it from us. What did you think of our discussion? Any feedback? If you have feedback like Lee did, go to sqpn.com/bets, BETTS, or the SQPN Facebook page, which is facebook.com/StarQuestMedia. You can even go to Twitter, where we're at SQPN. Leave us feedback, send an email. You can also send an email to bets, BETTS, at sqpn.com. And we'll put links to the various books and some of the other things in our show notes at sqpn.com. If you can, one of the ways you can help us, in addition to becoming a patron, is if you could write a review at Apple Podcasts or any other podcast directory of the show. That helps get new listeners. People, it gooses the algorithm so that they say, if people are writing reviews, this must be something we should show other people. So if you could write a review, we'd greatly appreciate it. And if you could share the podcast with your friends, perhaps post on social media, on your Facebook or Twitter account or something like that, to help us grow this community of listeners, we really do appreciate that. And we really, love connecting with you folks who are listening. And so that would be great. Anyway, until next time, I'm Dom Bettinelli.
And I'm Melanie Bettinelli.
Thank you for listening to Raising the Bets on StarQuest.